Welcome to CUIN 1103. I'm Dr. Hale, and I'm going to talk with you a little bit today about growth mindset. That's our topic for today. So I want you to look at this first graphic. I won't give up. No, I won't give in till I reach the end. Then I'll start again. This is from Disney's movie Zootopia. So when we think about growth mindset, that's really what we're talking about, the idea of not giving up. So today we're going to be learning about this through this screencast and some videos and some homework that you'll have. But basically, here's our agenda for this video. We're going to talk about some famous failures in history. We're going to watch a TED Talk video, and then instead of having a discussion together, you're going to do some thinking about that TED Talk and maybe talking with some of your peers, and then you're going to answer some questions for me and email them in. We're going to watch another video about a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset, and you'll have a little work to do about that. And then for homework, you're going to do several things for homework, but ultimately you're going to take a grit self-assessment to see where you are with grit and growth mindset. And what we're attempting to accomplish here is that we want you to be able to describe the idea of growth mindset and promote growth mindset in yourself as well as in the students that you work with now in pre-teaching, next semester in developing teaching, and then in your student teaching residency, as well as when you go out into the world and start teaching. So when we think about famous failures, I want to share with you some famous failures in history and currently. So here's a graphic I have. J.K. Rowling, you guys know her as the author of Harry Potter. So she's a really interesting figure. She was a divorced mom, single parent. She was suffering from depression. Yet here she is now, one of the highest grossing authors in the country. If you know anything about her, you know that she sat in a coffee shop and started writing Harry Potter on napkins in the coffee shop. So she obviously had some grit and some determination and some growth mindset. Another example is Albert Einstein. So he's a physicist. You all know who Albert Einstein is. So when he was 16 years old, he was not able to pass the required standard in the general education part of his school entrance exam. And so he was not allowed into the Polytechnic Institute where he wanted to attend school. So basically he wasn't able to pass the entrance exam and failed. Steven Spielberg, famous film director, he had really bad grades in high school. And so 3 times he applied to the University of Southern California and he was rejected all 3 times. But look what he's become. He makes millions of dollars. That is some growth mindset. Not that growth mindset is all about making money. It's about determination and perseverance. And Steven Spielberg definitely persevered. Some others, Oprah Winfrey, she's one of my favorites. In her first job as a news anchor, she was demoted because her boss told her she was too emotional and that she wasn't a good fit for television. But look at her growth mindset and her grit. She now has her very own television network. So she really persevered. I'm not going to show you all of them. The Beatles. The Beatles, they're the most successful music group in history. Yet when they first auditioned for a record contract, they were told that the producers did not like their sound and that guitar music was on the way out. Isn't that interesting? Look at what grit they have. Let's see, Lady Gaga. You guys are well aware of who she is. So when she was first beginning, and you've probably heard this, representatives in the music industry told her that she didn't have the right look, that she wasn't pretty enough to be a headline singer, and that none of the songs she had written would ever be hits. They're probably killing themselves right now, wishing they hadn't told her that, because she's certainly overcome. I have to stop at John Green. You guys know him for his books, The Fault in Our Stars, Turtles All the Way Down, Looking for Alaska. He has been called by a former employer a horrible slob who didn't do his job all that well. He was rejected from an advanced creative writing course, dumped by his girlfriend, and he took 10 years to write one book. But look at what a hit he's become. Talk about grit. And he shares openly about the struggles that he's had. Abe Lincoln, Michael Jordan, Jeremy Schuh-Lin, Adele. There's tons of people, tons of famous people that you know who exhibit this growth mindset and this grit. So I want to show you, let me find the right window, a short TED Talk video about grit. So we gotta get through the ad. There we go. Escape full screen. I'm gonna leave it right here, I think.
When I was 27 years old, I left a very demanding job in management consulting for a job that was even more demanding, teaching. I went to teach 7th graders math in the New York City public schools. And like any teacher, I made quizzes and tests, I gave out homework assignments. When the work came back, I calculated grades. What struck me was that IQ was not the only difference between my best and my worst students. Some of my strongest performers did not have stratospheric IQ scores. Some of my smartest kids weren't doing so well. And that got me thinking. The kinds of things you need to learn in 7th grade math, sure, they're hard. Ratios, decimals, the area of a parallelogram. But these concepts are not impossible. And I was firmly convinced that every one of my students could learn the material if they worked hard and long enough. After several more years of teaching, I came to the conclusion that what we need in education is a much better understanding of students and learning from a motivational perspective, from a psychological perspective. In education, the one thing we know how to measure best is IQ. But what if doing well in school and in life depends on much more than your ability to learn quickly and easily? So I left the classroom and I went to graduate school to become a psychologist. I started studying kids and adults in all kinds of super challenging settings. And in every study, my question was, who is successful here and why? My research team and I went to West Point Military Academy. We tried to predict which cadets would stay in military training and which would drop out. We went to the National Spelling Bee and tried to predict which children would advance farthest in competition. We studied rookie teachers working in really tough neighborhoods, asking which teachers are still going to be here in teaching by the end of the school year. And of those, who will be the most effective at improving learning outcomes for their students? We partnered with private companies asking which of these salespeople is going to keep their jobs and who's going to earn the most money. In all those very different contexts, one characteristic emerged as a significant predictor of success. And it wasn't social intelligence, it wasn't good looks, physical health, and it wasn't IQ. It was grit. Grit is passion and perseverance for very long-term goals. Grit is having stamina. Grit is sticking with your future, day in, day out, not just for the week, not just for the month, but for years, and working really hard to make that future a reality. Grit is living life like it's a marathon, not a sprint. A few years ago, I started studying grit in the Chicago public schools. I asked thousands of high school juniors to take grit questionnaires, and then waited around more than a year to see who would graduate. Turns out that grittier kids were significantly more likely to graduate, even when I matched them on every characteristic I could measure, things like family income, standardized achievement test scores, even how safe kids felt when they were at school. So it's not just at West Point or the National Spelling Bee that grit matters, it's also in school, especially for kids at risk for dropping out. To me, the most shocking thing about grit is how little we know, how little science knows about building it. Every day, parents and teachers ask me, how do I build grit in kids? What do I do to teach kids a solid work ethic? How do I keep them motivated for the long run? The honest answer is, I don't know. What I do know is that talent doesn't make you gritty. Our data show very clearly that there are many talented individuals who simply do not follow through on their commitments. In fact, in our data, grit is usually unrelated or even inversely related to measures of talent. So far, the best idea I've heard about building grit in kids is something called growth mindset. This is an idea developed at Stanford University by Carol Dweck, and it is the belief that the ability to learn is not fixed, that it can change with your effort. Dr. Dweck has shown that when kids read and learn about the brain and how it changes and grows in response to challenge, they're much more likely to persevere when they fail because they don't believe that failure is a permanent condition. So growth mindset is a great idea for building grit, but we need more. And that's where I'm going to end my remarks, because that's where we are. That's the work that stands before us. We need to take our best ideas, our strongest intuitions, and we need to test them. We need to measure whether we've been successful, and we have to be willing to fail, to be wrong, to start over again with lessons learned. In other words, we need to be gritty about getting our kids grittier. Thank you.
So here's what I'd like for you guys to do in response to that video. I want you, and I'm going to post this document in Blackboard for you. I want you to answer these questions for me. And this one right here, what questions do you have? That one's really important to me. I know class is ending and the semester is just about over, but I hope to continue working with you in some fashion while you're in developing teaching and student teaching. And I want to be able to think through your questions with you. So let's continue going. We watched that. That's what you're doing. So when we think about a growth mindset, Duckworth mentioned growth mindset in her TED Talk. I want us to think a little bit about the difference between growth mindset and fixed mindset. And to help us do that, I have another short video for you to watch. It is right here.
Between
Rewind it to the beginning. Here we go.
Did you know there's a powerful relationship between what we believe about how we learn and our actual achievement? Dr. Carol Dweck studies students' beliefs about intelligence. What she found is that students...
And Dr. Dweck is the researcher at Stanford that Duckworth mentioned in her TED Talk.
...generally hold one of two very different beliefs about intelligence. Some students have what she calls a fixed mindset. This is the belief that intelligence is a fixed trait that doesn't change much. So like eye color, these students believe you're born with a certain amount of intelligence and there's not much you can do to change it. Other students have a very different belief about intelligence. They have a growth mindset. They see intelligence more like a muscle. They understand that when you put in effort, you can get smarter. What we now know from study after study is that the more students have a growth mindset and believe that they can grow their intelligence, the better they do in school. Students with a growth mindset do better in school because they approach learning differently than students with a fixed mindset. For students with a fixed mindset, their goal in school is to show how smart they are, or hide how dumb they think they are. This makes sense, right? If you think you're just born smart or dumb, you want to make sure you show that you are smart. So this makes fixed mindsetters much less likely to ask questions in class or seek out help from peers or teachers because that would involve showing that they don't know something. Students with a growth mindset, on the other hand, have the goal to learn, so they're more likely to ask a question if they don't understand, or to seek out help, or try a new strategy if they are struggling. When it comes to the amount of effort you have to put forth, students with a fixed mindset and students with a growth mindset see that differently as well. Those with a fixed mindset actually see effort as proof of low ability. They think that if you have to try hard, that means you aren't very smart. Whereas students with a growth mindset see effort as the way that you get smarter. How students react when they are faced with a challenge or setback in their learning is what really differentiates those with a fixed mindset and those with a growth mindset. Students with a fixed mindset will think that they are not smart and will likely give up on a task. Those with a growth mindset tend to work harder because they see it as an opportunity to learn and grow their intelligence. So if we can all grow our intelligence, are we saying that all students have equal ability? We aren't saying that everyone has the same level of intelligence. Having a growth mindset doesn't mean that you believe everyone has equal ability in every subject matter. It also doesn't mean that we believe some students aren't more talented in certain subjects than others. It means that you believe that no matter where a person is now, they can always improve with effort, good strategies, and help. And that's the number one piece of information you should take away from this lesson. No matter where a person is now, they can always improve with effort, good strategies, and help.
So when we think about that, no matter where a person is
We
now.
want to show you the shortcuts that if you don't even have a clue what knowledge you might.
There we go. When we think about that, everybody can improve with effort, good strategies, and help. It's a little bit Vygotskian. So if you think about Vygotsky's zone of proximal development, that help, that's where we are that's where we need to be to help students. We need to know where they are and scaffold them up to that next level, but then they also need to try, and our scaffolding includes those good strategies. So what I'd like for you to do in response to that video, I want you to work through this on the document, a fixed versus a growth mindset thinking. So I want you to think about a fixed mindset, and instead of saying the things on the left, how could you try it? So for example, this is too hard. That's a fixed mindset, and I have certainly been in that position before. But how could you frame that differently with a growth mindset? So this is too hard for me at this particular moment. This is too hard. I need help. Okay, a fixed mindset. I'm good at this. How could you change that to a growth mindset? Okay, I can't do math. If you know Dr. Culpepper, she always gives me grief about this because I say that I'm not a math person, but that is an example of a fixed mindset that I have. And so I have to think about the fact that I can't do math as good as other people, or I can't do math at the moment. I can't do math very well yet. Okay, so I want you to think about and write your answers in the right, your thinking in the right. So on the right-hand column, how could you modify these sentences on the left that are examples of fixed mindset statements to be sentences that are examples of growth mindset statements? Okay. Couple of other things that I want you to complete. Here is a grit scale quiz. This is something that Angela Lee Duckworth, who we watched in the first video, put together. I want you to click on this link, and I want you to take the grit scale quiz. Once you've taken it, I want you to answer these 3 questions. And for this document, type directly on it. And when you're finished with all the homework, with all of the work that goes as part of this class, you're going to email it directly to me. The final thing I want you to do is complete this reflection. What did you know about today's topic, grit and growth mindset, before doing the activities that we've talked about in this video? What did you learn about today's topic during class? And what do you still not understand about today's topic? Once you've completed these 3 pages, I want you to email them to me. Here's my email address. I need them emailed to me by December 2nd. Okay? Email those to me by December 2nd. Remember that by December 2nd, you should also have completed your pre-teaching time log and uploaded it into Blackboard. All right? Please email me if you have questions. There's my email address. All of this can be found in course content under the folder Dr. Hale specific information. Have a great day.